Assalamu alaikum. How are you all? We are meeting after a long time, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So today we will be discussing the foreign policy of Pakistan. It will be just an introduction of foreign policy, right? But foreign policy, what do you know about foreign policy? How relations of countries are going to be with other countries, right? And why do we need a foreign policy? No country can survive alone on its own. Okay, that's why we need a foreign policy. Secondly, in individual capacity, we can be we can just be employed by some employer and we can earn our living, but when it comes to states, they cannot be employed by other states, so they need to carry out business with other states in order to give boost to their economy and improve their socio-economic situation inside the country. So that's why in order to do that, they need to have a viable foreign policy to cater for their needs, domestic needs as well, right? And take care of their interests. Okay, this was just a brief view about foreign policy. In today's lecture, what we will be discussing is that what is the foreign policy, objectives of Pakistan's foreign policy, then what are the determinants of Pakistan's foreign policy, and what are the guiding principles of the foreign policy of Pakistan, important factors of our policy, current focusing points. What are these current focusing points, like where are we heading right now, what are the major alliances of our country, and what are major rivalries Pakistan is facing, and international organizations and our foreign policy, and then overview of different phases of Pakistan's foreign policy, and at the end we will conclude it, right? Okay. So foreign policy, it is relations between sovereign states, right? Sovereign states is important. When there are some relations between two states, they are equal. One is sovereign, the other is also sovereign, and when they establish relations, so we call it foreign policy. These relations are established as a result of a foreign policy. Like Israel is a sovereign state and Pakistan is a sovereign state, but our foreign policy says that we should not have diplomatic relations with them. So these relations are not there, but this is part of our foreign policy, that we do not want to establish relations with them, with Israel, right? So this is foreign policy. It is a reflection of domestic politics and interaction among sovereign states, right? Now it is a reflection of domestic politics, like take the example of Israel again, right? At domestic front, we do not approve of the Zionist state in the occupied lands in the Middle East, and that is why we haven't accepted it as a sovereign state, as a separate state, right? So this is a reflection of our domestic politics. That's why these politics are reflected at international front as well. At domestic level, we are, as a nation, we consider India as a threat for our security, for our survival, existence, and that is why our policy towards India, foreign policy towards India, is quite aggressive, and vice versa, right? Their foreign policy towards us is also aggressive, right? So these are some of the, and then when you see at domestic front, since we are a Muslim state, we came into being in the name of ideology, as a result of an ideology, and that is why we have got good friendly relations with all of the Muslim countries. So domestic aspirations, they are reflected in the foreign policy, right? Secondly, it indicates the principles and preferences on which a country wants to establish relations with another country, right? So what are the principles, right? And what will be the preferences, like why do we have good relations with China? Because these are our preferences. We consider China to be a good friend of Pakistan. It can be beneficial in economic terms even in security terms for Pakistan, and so security is one of our preferences, and that is why we have got good relations with China, right? Okay. Now, as rightly one of you rightly said that no country can survive on its own. This is an era of interdependence, right? So we need to depend on others in order to take care of our own interest or to achieve our own interest. So no states can survive on its own, and that is why Pakistan also needs to have good relations with other states in the Committee of Nations. So in order to cater for its needs, like for example, we have economics, right? Just forget about this skull. We have economic needs, we have industrial and technological needs, we have needs in many fields, and that is why we are dependent on the technologically advanced countries, and we are dependent on the economically strong countries to support us in order to help us build our industries and educate our people, impart them technical skills and give them education, and in a lot of fields we are dependent on other countries, and vice versa, they are also dependent on us. So it is always a give and take kind of scenario for us. No state, just even if we analyze the position of the United States of America, which is the strongest nation or the strongest country on the face of the earth, if we analyze its position, even it cannot cater for all of it needs on its own, though it has got a lot of territory, and it has got many ports, and it has got resources and everything, but it cannot cater for all of its needs. It is dependent on even a country like Pakistan for its security needs, or in order to fulfill or in order to get its regional interest in this area, it is dependent on Pakistan. So the United States of America is dependent on someone, right? So we cannot say that a small country can survive alone and a small country will survive alone. It is not the case, particularly in this era where we are living in the age of globalization, and people they just travel frequently and they come across a lot of new ideas, and then the demand for change is there, and then these demands cannot be catered by the country on its own. So that's why these kind of things make these kind of things compel a country to go for a vibrant foreign policy in order to achieve those objectives, right? Okay, Pakistan is an important third world country in its development stage, right? It also has formulated her foreign policy keeping in mind its geopolitics, geography, geopolitics and economic needs, right? So these needs have been taken care of while formulating the foreign policy of Pakistan. Like geography, Pakistan is geographically important country, and it is because of the geography of Pakistan that we have got good relations with China, right? It is because of the geography of Pakistan that the United States of America is dependent on us in order to achieve its objectives in Afghanistan, right? So it is because of this geography. Just imagine that if Pakistan were situated somewhere else, like in Central Africa or somewhere else, right? So the position of Pakistan would not have been that much important for the international actors, but it is just because of this geographical location that the position of Pakistan is quite important for great powers and even the sole superpower, the United States of America, right? Okay. What is the foreign policy? It is the establishment and development of relations with other countries in order to protect the national interest by taking appropriate steps at international level, right? In order to protect your national interest, you need to take appropriate steps at international level. Now, what is this? What is this national interest, right? Can somebody tell me about it? Qawmi Mafad. Yes, you are right. And how do we take care of this national interest? By taking appropriate steps at international level?
By making policies which benefit your country now.
Okay, that's true. But just give me, like, national interest, Qawmi Mafad is the translation of national interest in Urdu. Give me an example of national interest.
Like sir, जैसे कहते हैं कि अफगानी जो immigrants हैं पाकिस्तान के long term relations में अगर they can be a burden on our country. Make policies like उनको ऐसी policy बनाने की उनको return करें वापस उनकी country में.
Okay.
It can benefit our country.
Trade, right? Any other example? Security? Yes, CPEC, but CPEC will boost the economy of Pakistan. So it is just in our national interest to boost the economy of the country, right? Talk about security, right? And then just analyze this statement in with that lens, like security needs of Pakistan, right? Pakistan needs to be secure, and it just wants to have good relations with other countries in order to avoid or to neutralize the threat by India, right? So that's why Pakistan would go for China in order to take in order for it to take care of its security needs. It would look towards China. We have been discussing it during the previous classes, that how China came to the rescue of Pakistan, or like by giving statements and yes.
Improving our relationship with Russia.
Improving our relations with the Russia. So now these are improvement of this. Improving the relations means that this is an area of foreign policy. Now the foreign policy is at work why it is at work, why it is doing that, because it knows that there is some problem over here at domestic front, and we need to take care of this problem. For example, if India becomes a friend of Russia, and if it somehow makes Russia as an ally against Pakistan, right, then as it did in the 1970s, so then it will be detrimental to the security interest of Pakistan. That is why Pakistan should also take care of these issues, right? So these are the national interest. If it is in your national interest to have good economy, then you need to look for economic partners globally, right? And you need to devise policies which can take care of your economic needs as well, right? Like you have good policy towards, you have policies where in the Middle East, with the Middle Eastern countries, we have friendly relations, and people migrate from Pakistan to the Middle East, economic migrants, right? When they go there, the revenue is whatever they earn, they just send money back to the home country, like in shape of foreign remittances, and so these are the economic needs, and that is why Pakistan is also having good. Yeah.
I'm asking कि national interest के अंदर ही आएगा ना कि हम लोगों ने उनको इजाज़त नहीं दी है ट्रेड करने की.
Yes, you can, who defines the national interest? You need to look into it as well, right? So if Pakistan allows itself to be used as a transit route from India to Afghanistan and Afghanistan to India, right, then these are the apprehensions in the policy makers, in the minds of the policy makers of Pakistan, that India might somehow under the guise of economic umbrella, it might threaten the security of the country, right? It might export agent, it might do a lot of things which are not allowed, which can be hidden from the eyes of the policy makers or the intelligence agencies. So they might be detrimental to the security interest of the country, and that is why Pakistan does not allow it, right? This is debatable whether it should allow or it should not, but this is one of the concerns, right?
Sir, like Pakistan obviously neutral stand whenever a conflict occurs between Middle Eastern countries, like nowadays Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates have stopped importing things in Qatar. So Pakistan has taken a neutral stance. He's not supporting any one particular country. So it's also not important policy.
Exactly. This is one of the aims of our foreign policy, that we should not be partying with any party. We should not be party to the conflict in the Middle East. We should remain neutral. Same is the case with Iran and Saudi conflict. Pakistan does not side with anyone. It is just neutral. It is giving a neutral posture to both these actors. So this is a foreign policy gesture which it is giving, because it does not want any of these states to be offended by our foreign policy, right? Okay, principles of Pakistan foreign policy: peaceful coexistence, right? One principle is that peaceful coexistence. What is peaceful coexistence? What is peaceful coexistence? Live and let live, right? This is what we mean by peaceful coexistence. Geo or Gino though. Okay, non-alignment. Be neutral, right? United Nations Charter. So we are working, this is one of the cardinal principles of Pakistan's foreign policy, that we need to work for the implementation of the United Nations Charter on the global stage, right? Another principle is unity of the Islamic world, right? Well, possible or impossible, it's another debate, but this is one of the principles of our foreign policy, right? International and regional cooperation. So Pakistan would also work for this. You can see the examples of these cooperation, that Pakistan is part of SAARC, right? So it is a step towards the regional cooperation. Then Pakistan is a member of the OIC, right? Another regional organization, and Pakistan is member of the United Nations as well. So these are the steps taken for in order to achieve this objective, or these steps have been taken under this principle, right? Okay, what are the objectives of the foreign policy of Pakistan? National security, right? This is one of the objectives. Economic development and taking care of our ideology.
How can you say that? I don't even think that China be here.
Rephrase your question. Rephrase your question. Is it a comment or question?
No, sir. मैं ये कह रहा हूँ कि अगर हमें कुछ हो जाए पाकिस्तान में, तो हमारी नुसरत को तो चाइनीज ही आएंगे ना, और तो कोई कौन नहीं बैठेगी.
Well, I think no one would come. You need to take care of yourself. You need to take care of yourself. But if somebody has got strategic interest in your country, then they would come, right? So if today it is China, tomorrow it can be someone else. It depends on us. How do we project ourselves at regional level? If we can closely link with Iran, with India, with Afghanistan, with China, so with all of these countries, if we make such kind of a foreign policy where we can accommodate all of these countries with us, then we would face threat from nowhere, right? Okay. Then economic development and taking care of our ideology. These are the objectives of the foreign policy of Pakistan, right? Determinants, what are the determinants? What are the things which determine the foreign policy of Pakistan? What are the factors which shape our foreign policy, right? This is what we commonly call determinants. So security is one of the determinants of the foreign policy of Pakistan, right? If our security is at stake, we would definitely have to devise some policy in order to avoid that threat or deter that threat, right? Then ideology is another determinant. Whenever we make some foreign policy, we take care of our ideological foundations, and we take guidance from there, and then we decide about our foreign policy. National interest, so we can encompass a lot of things in the national interest, and it is not us, like the common people, to decide whether something is in national interest or something is not in national interest. Okay, diplomacy, it also determines the foreign policy of the country, right? If your diplomacy is effective, your foreign policy will be effective. If it is not effective, then the foreign policy will not be that much effective, right? And public opinion shapes the foreign policy as well, right? And then decision-making process. What is the decision-making process? Either it is a bureaucratic model, it is a leader-oriented model, or it is, establishment-oriented model, or what is the decision-making model of the foreign policy. So whatever that model is, it shapes your foreign policy in that direction, right? Okay, guiding principles of the foreign policy. So protection of freedom and sovereignty. This is one of the guiding principles of the foreign policy. Pakistan came into being as a result of a long struggle, as we have been discussing it during this course, and that is why Pakistan thinks that freedom and sovereignty of all nationalities should be protected across the world, right? And that's why Pakistan has always raised its voice in favor of the Palestinian people, in favor of the Kashmiri people, right? So this is under this principle that Pakistan is doing it, right? That we think that we need to protect the freedom and sovereignty not only of Pakistan but all of the oppressed people, and we need to raise voices for it. And that's why Pakistan is part of the United Nations missions across the world, and it even sends its troops to different countries to ensure that sovereignty and freedom is given to the people and it is protected, right? Okay, cordial relations with the Muslim countries. This is another principle, right, that we should have good, friendly relations with all of the Muslim countries. So, with one exception, and even that is debatable, that is Afghanistan. With that one exception, you cannot single out a Muslim country with which Pakistan does not have good relation, right? Even with Afghanistan, we do have good relations, right? But you cannot single out one Muslim country. Can you do that? Can you do that? Can somebody tell me one Muslim country with which Pakistan doesn't have? This is what I have told you, that with the exception of Afghanistan, and even that is debatable, right? This is what I have already told you. That is debatable. What do we call good relations? We do not even have troops on our border. This is just recently that we have got troops with Afghanistan on our border, on the western border. Up till recently, 10 to 15 years ago, we did not have troops on this border, and it was quite peaceful. We were living quite peaceful with Afghanistan, right? So, secondly, Afghanistan and Pakistan, they always, when the role of India comes into play in the relations between Afghanistan and Pakistan, then we see that Pakistan feels that it is exploited in this by this neighboring country. But if you deduct this role of India from Afghanistan, from the politics in Afghanistan, then Pakistan has got good relations. Even yesterday, day before yesterday, China, Afghanistan and Pakistan, they again reiterated that it is in the interest of all these countries, particularly both these neighboring states, that they should have good relations. And Afghanistan and Pakistan agreed on this point. They would never agree, India and Pakistan would never agree on such points, They have a lot of bones of contention between them. But with Afghanistan, we do not have such kind of a conflict, right? These are small, petty conflicts, and India just try to exploit it.
But sir, these conflicts are not only political conflicts, in cricket as well, Afghani players and all, they are always making fun of Pakistani players, etc.
Well, yes, you are right, but you need to put yourself in their shoes and then discuss this issue. Why people in Afghanistan, some of the people in Afghanistan, they are against Pakistan. They might be influenced by the role of India in Afghanistan. They might be influenced by the economic aid provided by India to Afghanistan, right? and part of that aid goes to the anti-Pakistan propaganda as well, right? So, but when we see the larger picture, normally Afghanis have got good relations with Pakistanis. We can experience that firsthand even over here in Islamabad. We have been experiencing it in Balochistan and Fata and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and in many other cities of the country where Afghanis live side by side with the Pakistanis, and they are peacefully coexisting with each other, right? So that's why I am talking. You know, you can come up with a lot of examples which can negate my statement, but then I would reinforce my statement by coming to these kind of points. And this is just cricket, you know, these are sports. In sports you can just support anyone, it doesn't matter, right?
So that another example of you and conference, I don't know what conference it was, where the Mali ambassador, she talked against Pakistan and he came up with replies, but he said that Pakistan is the home ground of terrorism.
So this is part of it might be true, but why Pakistan is a haven to terrorists, a haven for terrorists, why it is like this? It is because of the negative role of the United States of America, right? Like when Pakistan was needed in the war against Soviet Union, the United States of America came and gave money and, you know, economic and military support to Pakistan to train mujahideen in order to counter Soviet Union in Afghanistan. But when that war was over, right, and when Soviet Union left Afghanistan as a defeated country, right, Soviet Union was defeated, when that war was over, then the United States of America just forgot everything. It did not do anything to take care of the issue of mujahideen and the refugees and other thing. And Pakistan is a weak country economically. Pakistan cannot take care of all these issues on its own. When the big supporter, the big economic and military supporter, even the ideological supporter at that time, the United States of America, when it just, you know, left the scene and left Pakistan to deal on its own with these the aftermaths or the after effects of the war, then anything could have happened, and it just happened, right? Pakistan could not take care of it on its own. So this is the flaw of the policies of the United States of America as well. So it is not the flaw of Pakistan alone, it is the flaw of the US. But right now, might is right, the United States of America is a powerful country. It does not even, you know, consider these arguments, and it is blaming Pakistan, and Afghanistan is suffering. So definitely when someone suffers, they would have to raise voices, right? And then the Indian role is there, right? They can see that people from Pakistan, they go over there and they fight. These are Afghani people, right? They have been crossing the borders for decades, so they can go, they go over there and they fight, but it does not mean that they have got some official support by the state of Pakistan. There might be some kind of support by the local sympathizers, but not by the state of the Pakistan, right? And even if you say that there is support of the state of Pakistan with them, then how can they negate the negative role of India and Afghanistan in supporting the anti-Pakistan elements over there in Afghanistan? Like the leadership of TTP is residing over there in Afghanistan. They are pressurizing Pakistan to eliminate the leadership of Afghani Taliban or the Haqqani network, right? But on the other hand, they are ignoring the fact that the leadership of TTP is over there in Afghanistan, in the provinces which are situated close to Dir and Waziristan and Bajo, in these areas. The leadership is residing over there, the Pakistani Taliban leadership is residing over there, and they are not eliminating it. They would know that, okay, Osama bin Laden is in Abbottabad, let's go and hunt him down, right? So they did it, but over there they cannot find Mullah Fazlullah, right? So how is it possible? So then if you see that this is a kind of balancing role as well. If they go after the Pakistani Taliban leadership, Pakistan might definitely seriously think about going after those elements which they think that they are not friendly to the interest of the United States and Afghanistan. So all these issues should be taken care of, right? It is not just do more kind of thing, that they would be pressurizing Pakistan to do more, and Pakistan would not raise its voice for its own interest. So it is kind of, this kind of thing is also at play, right? Okay. Non-interference in the internal affairs of other countries. So this is one of the objectives of the Pakistan's foreign policy, or one of the guiding principles of the Pakistan foreign policy, that it should not interfere in the internal affairs of other countries. Now you can criticize this statement. Again, you can criticize it, but the United States of America came up with a lot of sanctions on Pakistan, because the nuclear program of Pakistan was also underway at that time, right? So the United States of America was also putting sanctions on, economic sanctions on Pakistan because of that nuclear program, right? So the role of the US was quite negative after the Afghan war. And if you see the role of the United States of America in relations with Pakistan, it is also, it is always questionable. Whenever they need Pakistan, they would come close to Pakistan, and ironically the leadership of Pakistan would embrace them, right? They should not do it. Like in 2001, when the United States of America needed Pakistan, General Pervez Musharraf, though he is very brave when it comes to India, but he is not brave when it comes to the United States of America. His statements against India are, you know, quite famous. But just look at his conduct when it comes to the...
political support and reward to, like, take his political career up.
Exactly, he needed that support from the US, and that's why he just embraced them. He gave everything. Even one of the official of the Bush administration, he was amazed. He wrote it in his book. His name is just skipping my mind, maybe Richard Armitage or something like that. He was amazed. He told that we did not expect General Pervez Musharraf to agree to all of our demands, and he agreed, right? So they just, if they needed 50% support, they just demanded 200% support, and Pervez Musharraf approved all of their demands. So that was a blunder on the part of Pervez Musharraf. He could utilize the position of Pakistan wisely. Today Pakistan would have been on another, you know, trajectory, but he did not do that.
I think our governments do it with all powerful nations, like letting China use their currency in Gwadar.
But if you are letting China use its currency, or if you are letting China use your strategic location for economic benefits, not only for her economic benefit, but for your economic benefits as well, then this is not bad. But if you are letting someone use your geographical location for its own security interest, and violating your security, your sovereignty at the same time, and asking you to do more, you just Google do more, and you will come to know about hundreds of political statements over the past 1.5 decades that the US administration is asking Pakistanis to do more in Afghanistan, to do more in FATA, and we were doing more, and we were damaging ourselves, right? So in the process we provided space for the local people. They were not happy with our conduct in FATA, in Balochistan. We provided space, right? Space for India, space for other anti-Pakistan intelligence agencies to come and take advantage of the local grievances against Pakistan. This is what they are doing. This is what they did in the past. So on our part, I think this is a flaw of our policy. This was a flaw of our policy. We should not have been involved in these kind of tactics, right? But non-interference in the internal affairs of other countries. This is one of the principles of Pakistan's foreign policy, guiding principles of Pakistan's foreign policy. Now you can just criticize this thing that, okay, Pakistan is involved in the internal affairs of, let's say, Afghanistan, or let's say Pakistan is somehow supporting the Kashmiri Mujahideen. This is a principal support, right? Diplomatic support or these kind of thing, not militarily, at least not on paper, right? So Pakistan is doing this can be termed as internal interference in the internal affairs of other countries. in Afghanistan, this, but then you just imagine, and then you just go back and look at the conduct of Pakistan towards Afghanistan during the King Zahir Shah's eras or Dawood's era. Pakistan did not do it. Pakistan did not destabilize Afghanistan. Pakistan did not interfere in their internal affairs. Though Afghanistan was one of the Muslim countries, one of the neighboring Muslim countries which resisted the membership of Pakistan in the United Nations, right? But even then, from 1947 up till 1970s, early 70s, Pakistan did not interfere in the internal affairs of Afghanistan. Why did Pakistan interfere in the internal affairs of Afghanistan afterwards? Because there was Saur revolution in Afghanistan, right? Inqilab Saur जिसे कहते हैं, ठीक है? This Saur revolution was there, and Afghanis were killing each other, right? One after the other they were killing, and it was a communist revolution, right? So when that communist revolution, this was a common socialist tactics, that, subversive tactics. So they were, when these activities began in Afghanistan, Pakistan was not aloof from it, right? Pakistan was looking it with quite a skeptical approach. And what it did was that when Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan in 1979, Pakistan considered it as a threat to its own sovereignty, because in 1971, though it was a mistake on our part in the 1970s, early 70s and late 60s, that we did not give proper, we did not give rights to the Bengalis. We did not consider their aspirations, and that's why space was provided for India to interfere there. But the Soviet hand was still involved in that fiasco, right? So Soviet Union, there are, you can just Google it, you can just go on YouTube and you can listen to some of the lectures by the Soviet intelligence operatives who were involved in the subversive activities in East Pakistan, and they just name Mujibur Rahman, and they say how, and they are lecturing CIA officials, right, in 80s, and these videos have been recorded and they are on YouTube. You can just, XKGB or something like that, you just go on YouTube and do it, search it. You will find, when they lecture these CIA officials, they tell them that how did they, go to East Pakistan, and how did they instigate a socialist kind of revolution for Pakistan and this and that. And so these kind of activities were happening. And when Soviet Union in 1979 invaded Afghanistan, the role of Soviet Union in East Pakistan was visible to Pakistanis. So Pakistan could not remain aloof at that time, right? That is why Pakistan thought that we would be next after Afghanistan and we should counter them in Afghanistan, right? So plus a lot of Afghan refugees, they were coming to Pakistan and they were willing to leave their families back in Pakistan and go back and fight against the Soviet invaders, right? So when they were willing for that, Pakistan was provided with a golden opportunity to take care of its security interest in Afghanistan, rather than waiting for Soviet Union to reach to Pakistan and fight it in Pakistani territory, right? So this was in the national interest of Pakistan, but these were some external factors which created chaos in Afghanistan, and then Pakistan had to take some steps. As a neighboring country, you cannot remain aloof, because if there is fire in your neighborhood, if you do not go there and put some water on that fire, ultimately you will also be engulfed. Your home will also be engulfed in that fire, right? So this was the approach. If we look in, if you look back and then we say that okay, we did wrong in Afghanistan in the 1980s, right? We would be wrong because at that time the context was different. Later on we could not manage, but who could foresee all these things, that this would happen with us? At that time the national interest demanded that we should do it. Later on we could manage, this is debatable, we could manage the situation later on, which we did not. But why we did not do that? Because of a lot of other external factors, like sanctions by the United States of America. They were not interested in investing anymore in this region, and they have been involved in the, a lot of other activities on the international front. It was the closing years of the Cold War and Afghanistan, the war of Afghanistan. That was the final act of the Cold War, right? So Cold War was still there, and Soviet Union was still there. It only retreated from Afghanistan, but on international front it was giving tough competition to the United States of America, and it had some other priorities at that time, right? So that's why it did that. But that internal interference in Afghanistan, we can, there are exceptions, and they are there, and these are some of the exceptions, right? Apart from it, Pakistan did not interfere in the internal affairs of any other country, right? Okay, implementation of the United Nations Charter. So this is one of the guiding principles of the Pakistan foreign policy, that Pakistan would be implementing the United Nations Charter on the world stage. What does it mean? Can anybody tell me, what does it mean?
सर जो रूल्स यूनाइटेड नेशंस ने बनाए हैं मुल्कों के लिए, मतलब हम भी उनको प्रॉपर्ली फॉलो करेंगे. मतलब अगर उन्होंने किसी जंगबंदी का कहा है या किसी मुल्क के लिए, जैसे होता है कि यूएन में हमारी फौज भी है तो वो वहाँ हेल्प करने के लिए जाते हैं. अगर यूएन ऑर्डर दे तो हमारी फौज भी वहाँ जाती है. तो मतलब वो इसको प्रॉपर्ली देखे और इसका मतलब ख्याल रखे कि कोई वायलेशन ना हो यूनाइटेड नेशंस के लॉ की.
Yeah, this is one aspect of it. Sorry. Another aspect of it is that the United Nations Charter is implemented all over the world, right? Which means that it will be implemented in Pakistan as well. Daulat Islamia, Daesh, ISIS, right? It is not part of the United Nations. It is not a member of the United Nations. Bihral, yeah, of course, Iran is member of the United Nations, right? Okay, it means that it will implement the Charter of the United Nations in Pakistan as well. It will be part of the Constitution of Pakistan. For example, the United Nations Charter talks about human rights, fundamental human rights. So these fundamental human rights have been given to the citizens of Pakistan in the constitutions of Pakistan, in all of the constitutions of Pakistan, right? So this is in itself kind of implementation of the United Nations Charter in the country. Nowadays we are facing with the education emergency in the country, right? Because there were some Millennium Development Goals, MDGs, right? Now these are sustainable goals, right? So these are part of the United Nations Charter, and Pakistan is implementing it in Pakistan as well, right? Not only Pakistan is part of international efforts to implement it in those areas where they are not implemented beyond Pakistan, right? But Pakistan is also implementing it in Pakistan, right? So we need to then this polio vaccination and everything, WHO, World Health Organization, and efforts by the United Nations to eradicate polio, and Pakistan is part of it. It is diligently implementing it in Pakistan, right? Okay, then promotion of the world peace. So Pakistan, guiding principle of Pakistan says that it should be part of efforts in promoting the world peace. So how it can be part of the efforts? Can you give me an example? How it can be part of the those efforts which can promote world peace? Whatever efforts are required to promote the world peace, like for example, there was a conflict in the Middle East, right? And every state is concerned about this conflict between Iran and Saudi Arabia, conflict between Yemen, the Houthi rebels, and Saudi Arabia, right? So all of these conflicts, what is the role of Pakistan in these conflicts? Pakistan goes there and plays its positive role, neutral role, and plays the role of a mediator as well, right, between the two parties. Right, so this is the role of Pakistan, which you can say that it is quite positive for peace, for world peace. Pakistan plays this role, right? Then Pakistan raises a voice for the oppressed communities, and it says that okay, these are oppressed communities, and if you are violating them, the situation will go out of control. For example, the situation in Palestine, right? The situation in Kashmir. So this is the role of Pakistan, which is, you can say that Pakistan is playing its role on international front, positive role, and then Pakistan is part of many groups which play their role to promote world peace. So Pakistan is part of those efforts, right? So this is why Pakistan is part of these efforts, because this is one of the guiding principles of the Pakistan's foreign policy, right?
लेकिन अभी तक हमसे अपना कश्मीर इशू तो सॉल्व होता नहीं है, तो हम दूसरों की लड़ाई में घुसते हैं।
बिल्कुल ऐसी
लड़ाई नहीं, it's not like that Kashmir issue, we cannot resolve the Kashmir issue, and why we are meddling in others' fights, right? This is not like this. There are many dimensions of the Kashmir issue. You know, initially if you look into the issue, Pakistan was duped, right? Pakistan was duped because Pakistan accepted the intervention by the United Nations, right? In the first Kashmir War 1948, Pakistan accepted that intervention, and it thought that okay, this issue would be resolved under the United Nations, because United Nations was a newly established international body at that time, just 3 years old, right? So Pakistan accepted that okay, it would be playing its positive role, but then the United States of America, under the influence of India, it did not allow, you know, any active role by the United Nations in Kashmir, right? And situation changed later on. Pakistan was getting weaker and weaker, not only due to international conspiracies or politics, but also due to our domestic political turmoil in the 50s and 60s, which we have been studying, right? So Pakistan was weak and it could not assert itself on that forum. So this is one of the reasons that the Kashmir issue could not be resolved, and India is just buying time. You know, it is, you just analyze the pattern. Whenever Pakistan and India involve in a dialogue process over the Kashmir issues or many other issues, right? What happens is that when they come close to the resolution point, to the point where where the next step would be deciding something concrete about the Kashmir issue, something happens in India and they start blaming Pakistan, and they just, you know, stop the dialogue process, interrupt the dialogue process. So this is a very orchestrated kind of scenario with India over Kashmir, and India is just buying time. It is not serious in the resolution of this dispute, because it considers that okay, we will be buying time and Pakistan will get weaker and weaker and weaker with the passage of time, and it will not be able even to raise its voice in favor of Kashmir, right? So that is one of the objectives. So that is why, but when we call, what was that? Well, let me go back. Okay, so when we say that how can we promote world peace if we could not resolve the Kashmir issue, right? So we are promoting the world peace, like we were in the dialogue process in the post-Soviet Afghan resolution process. We were playing the role of a mediator in bringing together different Afghan warring factions on the table, and, you know, finding an acceptable solution to the conflict, to that conflict. Then we were in the dialogue process when Soviet Union was finding a solution for the Afghan conflict in the 1980s, in the late 1980s. So we facilitated, you know, we initiated a lot of things with them, a lot of dialogue processes with them. Right now, nowadays, the United States of America is again dependent on Pakistan to bring different Taliban factions on the table, and, you know, come up with a solution to this conflict, for this conflict. So Pakistan is again playing its positive role in this in the Afghan conflict, which is an effort for the promotion of world peace. You can term it as an effort, right? So okay, non-alignment. Another guiding principles of the Pakistan foreign policy is that we should be following the non-alignment policy, like neutrality. We should observe neutrality. We should not be either part of this group or that group. But this non-alignment is mainly related with the Cold War, right? In the Cold War, there were two blocks, the communist bloc or the socialist bloc or the capitalist bloc, right? One was led by the Soviet Union, the other was led by the United States of America. So, and then there was another group which was called as the non-alignment group or non-alignment movement. There were some states which thought that, okay, we should not be either part of this party or that party, this bloc or that bloc, right? We should remain non-aligned. Right? So, under a lot of constraints, under a lot of security considerations, Pakistan became part of the capitalist bloc, like, it just signed CETO and CENTO with the United States of America, so it formally became part of the capitalist group. But whenever it got opportunity, right, whenever it thought that, okay, its security interests have been met or they have not been met by these alliances, then it just quit those alliances and it became part of those non-alignment movements, right? So, because it was one of the guiding principles of the foreign policy that we should remain non-aligned, right? Okay, support for the self-determination and condemnation of racial discrimination. So Pakistan is supporting self-determination. If you talk about the Kashmiri people, Pakistan is supporting their right of self-determination, right? And it is condemning, it condemns wherever it finds that there is some kind of racial discrimination anywhere in the world, right? It condemns it. So these are some of the guiding principles of the Pakistan's foreign policy. Then in next class we will be analyzing some other aspects of the foreign policy of Pakistan, right? This is it for today. Thank you very much.